Section 4, Food Science and Technology. Content 1, Production of Common Food Commodities, and today we'll be looking at a dairy product and we'll be looking and exploring the production processes of cheese. Now, in today's session, we'll be defining some key concepts and exploring the production process of cheese, as well as looking at the different types of cheese. Now, definition of key concepts. It is very important for us to understand these definitions so we can have a foundation or an understanding of what is to come. So the terms that we'll be looking at are aging, curd, whey, rennet, and also starter culture. Now, what is a curd? Curd is obtained by coagulating milk in a process called curdling. The coagulation is caused by adding rennet to the milk and then allowing it to coagulate. Whey is the liquid remaining after milk has been curdled and strained. And based on the pictures that are displayed on your right, you can see the top picture is an example of what the curd would look like. And the second picture, the liquid that is remaining in the mixing bowl, is the whey. So the whey is the liquid portion or the watery part of the milk, and curd is the solid part, or we may say curdle, right? And it's produced when the milk coagulates. In order for the milk to coagulate, the enzyme rennet has to be added. So let's go again. In order for the milk to coagulate, the enzymes rennet has to be added. Now let us look what is rennet. So the rennet is the enzymes that acts on the milk proteins to form the curd. After the rennet is added, the curd is not disturbed for approximately 30 minutes, so a firm coagulum forms, right? And as you can see in the images as well, they are separating the curd from the whey. And the curd is what is used in cheese production. Now, what is starter culture? You have been hearing this word often, haven't you? Now, the term starter culture is used to describe bacteria specially grown to start the transformation of milk into cheese. Now, a starter culture is used in making of the vast majority of cheese. It turns milk's natural lactose, which is the sugar that is found in milk, into lactic acid. And it is very important to note that all cultured dairy products are made using a starter culture, right? Good. And the purpose, let's go back. The purpose of the starter culture is to break down the lactose, which is the sugar that is found in the milk, to create lactic acid, right? And starter culture is the term that is used to describe the specially grown bacteria to transform the milk into cheese. Good. And these are not harmful bacteria. So after the process of pasteurization to kill the harmful bacteria to create the ideal condition for the starter culture to break down or to convert the lactose, which is the sugar in the milk, to lactic acid. Good. Now, aging. Aging is the process by which cheese is held under controlled conditions from a few days to several years. As a cheese ages, microbes and enzymes transform texture and intensify the flavor. Now, aged cheese will be harder than young cheese, right? And just as how we speak of in age, so the aged cheese, the texture will be more dense, right? So think about the texture of mozzarella cheese versus that of Parmesan. Now, as you can see, based on the image here, a picture of the Parmesan, what the Parmesan cheese look like and what the mozzarella cheese looks like. So you notice that the Parmesan texture is harder as it is aged. However, the mozzarella cheese, and we can term it young cheese, is the texture is not so dense or so compact. It's a more softer type of cheese. Now guys, let us explore the production of cheese. Good. As you can see here in the image, they start off with raw milk. And do you remember what is raw milk? Awesome. So raw milk is milk that hasn't been processed or treated from it has been received from the cow or buffalo or goat, whichever milk it is, right? So after the milk is collected, it is, in some cases, for some cheese, it is pasteurized. Then it goes through a process of standardization and filtration. At this stage, the starter culture is added, and the cutting and stirring of the cheese will release the liquid. So the curd and whey mixture will then separate, and therefore the whey will be drained off. It is then pressed and formed into blocks or mold, and salt is added for preservation and also taste. Now at this stage, you have some cheese that are ripe, some cheese that are ripened, yes, or aged, and you have some cheeses that are just that just goes on the market after it has been processed. Now, cheese can be made using pasteurized or raw milk. So raw milk is unpasteurized milk that hasn't been processed. The exact milk that you get from whichever mammal was used, whether it be the cow, the goat, or buffaloes, whatever the case may be, right? So cheese made from raw milk imparts different flavors and texture characteristic to the finished cheese. And on this side, you can see some different examples of different types of cheeses. You have Parmesan, you have cheddar, provolone, feta, mozzarella, goat, American brie, and also blue cheese. Now, for some cheese varieties, raw milk is given a mild treatment. And when we speak of mild treatment, we're referring to a treatment that is below the temperature of what is used during pasteurization. Now, prior to cheese making, to destroy some of the spoilage organisms and provide better conditions for these cheese cultures. And remember that cheese culture or starter culture are the specific bacteria that are grown for the production of cheese. Now, let us look at the steps, general processing steps. So the first one is standardized milk. Step 2, milk is pasteurized and heat treated. Good. And in some cases, remember that the heat treatment that is given to the milk is not the temperature. Sometimes it's not pasteurized because it's not at the temperature to consider it as being through the process of pasteurization. Sometimes it's just it heats a little below the level of pasteurization, and that is good enough to kill certain level of the microorganisms, right? The milk is then cooled. Step 4, it is inoculate with starter or non-starter bacteria and allowed to ripen, or we could say it is allowed to ferment. So at this time, the starter cultures will act upon the sugar that is found in the milk. So it acts upon the lactose and turn it into lactic acid, right? And the rennet is added to help and develop for the curd to form, right? The curd is then cut and heated. The whey, which is a watery part of the milk, is drained away. The curd is then textured and salt may be added. So dry salt as in sprinkling of salt, or brine, and brine refers to a solution of salt and water. Good. So from step 10, the cheese is formed into blocks. It is then stored. In some cases, it is stored and aged. In other cases, cheese that are not aged are just packaged and ready for the market. And cheese that are not aged are the ones that are softer in texture, right? And the ones that are aged for months and years are the ones that are harder in texture. Now guys, let us look at the cheese production summary. Now, all cheese are made from milk, but different manufacturing and aging processes are used to produce the array of cheeses available today. Cheese can be made from many types of milk, such as cows, goats, and buffaloes. Cheese is made by coagulating or curdling milk, stirring and heating the curd, draining off the whey, which is the watery part of the milk, and also collecting and pressing the curd, and in some cases ripening, or we may say aging. Now, let us look at the different types of cheese. So we're going to look at cheese based on their texture, the different types based on their texture, and also the different types based on their preparation method. Now, we'll be looking at the different types based on their texture for now, right? So for the different types based on textures, we have soft cheese, we have semi-hard cheese, and we also have hard cheese. Now, let us look at some examples of soft cheese. Now, remember, depending on the texture of the cheese, so the soft cheese would not have gone through the process of aging. The semi-soft cheese might have gone through the process of aging, but it's not for a long time. And the hard cheese will go for months, and the very hard cheese will go for up to even years. Now guys, examples of soft cheeses includes brie, camembert, ricotta, cottage. Example of semi-soft cheeses includes blue, brick, feta, Monterey Jack, mozzarella, and Munster and provolone. Hard cheeses includes cheddar, Colby, Edam, Gouda, and Swiss. And examples of very hard cheese are Parmesan and Romano, right? Now, let us look at the different types of cheese based on their preparation method. So the first category or first type that we have is unripened, right? And this one is sold immediately and it is not allowed to age. Now, it's very important to note that unripened cheeses aren't allowed to age, and therefore they may have a soft or creamy texture. Now, examples include our cottage cheese, cream cheese, and ricotta cheese. Now, they are better for cooking because they are blendable, or we may say spreadable. The next category is ripened cheese, right? And curds are packaged and aged, sometimes for years. Examples are cheddar, Munster, provolone, and Swiss. Now, the softer the cheese, the better it is for you. While all cheeses have saturated fats, harder cheeses have higher levels. Good. Now, the next category that we'll be looking at is processed cheese. And processed cheese are chemically made or altered. Example, Velveeta, cheese sauces, and imitation cheese. These tend to create really smooth and creamy cheeses and cheese sauces. Good. Now guys, we're at the end of today's session on the production of cheese. And your activities are: 1. Create a crossword puzzle with the key concepts explained. 2. Create a flow chart with the production process of cheese. And next, you're going to collect pictures of cheeses on the following categories and create a mini scrapbook, right? So you will have types of soft cheese, pictures of types of soft cheese, semi-soft cheese, hard cheeses, and very hard cheese. You're awesome. You've made it to the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe